we're here to tell you something.
You can become extraordinary.
We've filmed some of the most inspirational people on the planet to understand what it really takes to succeed. In Becoming Extraordinary, we'll explore the skills, knowledge, attitudes, and relationships to help you to realize your potential.
Because greatness isn't born, it's learned. So, who can you become?
In this episode, we'll meet The Friend, an award-winning actress and producer, and The Showman, a Hollywood actor who overcame his challenges at school to take the big screen by storm.
Hello and welcome to Becoming Extraordinary. This series looks at some of the most accomplished people on the planet and helps you to develop the skills, the attitudes, and the knowledge to achieve some incredible things.
Yeah, and in this episode, we'll be dissecting the inspirational stories behind two of Hollywood's most iconic stars, Channing Tatum and Courteney Cox.
Yes, but before we get into the challenges and the experiences that brought Channing Tatum from the country to Hollywood, I think we should have a look at how Courteney became a household name.
Do you know anything about this Miss Courteney Cox?
I do. Courteney Cox is an American actress and filmmaker from Birmingham, Alabama.
That Birmingham. Did you also know Courteney studied architecture before pursuing her dream of acting?
For a short time, Courteney worked with the giant gaming publisher Bethesda.
Wow, they make a lot of crazy good games, actually. Courteney appeared in the 1984 music video for Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark.
Courteney stars in two of the highest grossing film and TV franchises of all time. American sitcom Friends and slasher horror Scream.
I'm about to scream if we can't find out more about her. Let's watch her film.
I am the youngest of 4 kids, and my household was pretty chaotic. It seemed like the only way you could really get attention is if you were the funniest or the fastest or the something, so it almost felt a little competitive in some ways. Alabama's a beautiful place to grow up in, but as far as acting or producing or directing, it wasn't something that I thought was a possibility. It wasn't even an elective in my high school. The closest thing I got to being creative was speech. And I loved it because even though I'm so nervous when I speak in public, I really enjoy that kind of adrenaline of trying to overcome it. Because it wasn't an option, I don't think I thought about what I wanted to do when I grew up, other than I did love design. I've always loved design and still do. I thought maybe I would be an architect, but let's be really clear. I'm not that book smart. So I went to the school that my mom had gone to and my sister had gone to. And after I went that first year and I really liked it, I went to New York and I started doing a little bit of modeling and started doing commercials, and I got work. So I thought, well, I can always go back to college. And then I never did.
So Courteney didn't grow up in LA. She didn't grow up in New York. She grew up in Alabama, where there aren't really many opportunities if she wanted to work in the acting field, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting because she had a big family, so she must have been fighting for attention. I mean, she said it was quite competitive, but she shared that she still struggles with speaking in front of people, which is something that she loves, but she still finds herself getting really nervous. And I'm sure loads of people can relate to that. You know, when you're younger, speaking in front of assembly or your mom or your parents or your friends, whatever it is, it's just nice to see that everybody feels that way.
Yeah, even when you're not younger, even when you're at the top of your class and she's still like, get a little nervous.
Yeah, I get nervous as well sometimes.
I'd be nervous if I was in the same room as her, you know.
When I moved to New York, I was so naive. I was only 18 years old. I went for one summer and I started studying acting. And as I was learning, I actually was getting jobs. And they weren't great jobs, but I got a couple of things that were like, oh, I might be able to do this. I was really fortunate in that way to break in through commercials. And then I got this Bruce Springsteen video, Dancing in the Dark, and because that was his first #1 hit, I got a lot of attention from it. It kind of was an entree into different castings. And they were small castings, but I got to meet casting directors and people because of that video. I do think I was really fortunate to kind of stumble into something that I never thought was possible. Once I was in New York and I got a television series called Misfits of Science, and it was picked up for 13 episodes. I moved to California, and I went from doing Misfits of Science, and then I did all these little small parts. Then I got Family Ties, and then from Family Ties, I think my next big show was Friends. That was incredible, incredible part of my life. It was lightning in a bottle. I mean, I worked with the most fantastic actors. We had such great chemistry. The writing, you just can't beat it. I feel very blessed to have gotten that job.
After 1 year, she dropped out of architecture school, which would have set her up for a very stable, standard job because she was passionate about acting. She wanted to act, so made that decision to follow her passions.
That was a big risk to take because there's no certainty when you change your mind. But she instead followed her passion, studied acting, ended up in some commercials, and then had her big break from the music video. I mean, amazing.
Amazing.
It was life-changing in so many ways. Yes, it was demanding, but I was always somebody who, I mean, to this day, if someone asks me for a picture or an autograph, maybe to a fault, I will never say no. I would take a picture with anybody because I still feel like that's a blessing. It's the least I can do for somebody, and they've been so supportive of me. Yes, you do lose a sense of privacy that you may have had because no one cared, but the good outweighs it so much. Up until recently, I think that I've doubted myself the entire time. I mean, not in every part, but there were later times where I had gotten a job and then all of a sudden I haven't worked for a long time, and I remember my father calling me up and saying, you know, why don't you come back? It's a long fall from California to Alabama, but there's always self-doubt, always. Success to me means being able to do what I want to do and do something that I'm passionate about and enjoy it. I'm not going to take things for granted. I have been lucky. Not always, but I'm going to really give it my all. I think that's the biggest thing that I have learned is don't take things for granted. Don't get lazy. Try as if it's your first day on everything. And then it's just more fun. I mean, there's things I wish I had done differently, but it's okay because I have the chance to do it now. And that would be just, if you want to be an actor, know every part of the business. Learn everything. Learn about editing, learn about directing, learn about producing, learn about anything that you can do that has to do with this creative field. You will always be able to draw from something. So what I think I try to instill in Coco, and I want to continue to, is to put yourself first. And I don't mean in a selfish way, but everyone else will be okay as long as you take care of yourself. And if you don't, then you're just allowing other people to kind of run over you. And I think that's my biggest lesson for her is be kind, be honest, do what you really want to do. Don't just try to please others.
One thing I really liked that she brought up is that you don't want to just go into your job and know what you're doing. She treats every single day as if it's her first day, because that way she always has something to learn. She's always trying her best. She's not just slipping back. She's very humbly ready to learn something every day, even though she is in a very talented position.
And I think humility is so important when you're successful because it's not just, oh, it's about me, I'm the actress, but for example, she said learn about the editing, learn about how to direct, learn about how to use cameras, and it's appreciating every role in the field and not feeling like you're the queen of the castle.
But yet also, likewise, it's so important, as she said, to focus on yourself and make sure that you're okay, and with that, you can make sure that everyone else is okay. I did appreciate that message a lot. Let's just summarize what some of our takeaways are. Always take all those small opportunities, no matter how small, and give it 110%.
Number two, I would say it's okay to be nervous. I've been doing live telly for about 3 years now. But before I go on set, I'm always like, oh my gosh, what are my lines? Am I gonna be okay? But you make it through because you have a good team around you. And number 3, I would say, make sure that you're not complacent. Always do your best, give your best shot, and you'll be fine.
And it was nice hearing about Courteney Cox. Let's learn more about Channing Tatum. What do we know about Channing Tatum?
Well, Channing Tatum is an American actor and filmmaker from Cullman, Alabama.
Another person from the American South. Wow. Channing also has attention deficit disorder, ADD, and dyslexia.
He worked odd jobs, which included being a roofer before he became a professional dancer, which was the inspiration for his most famous film, Magic Mike.
Wow, what an interesting backstory. Do you want to watch more about him?
I would love to.
I was born in Alabama, raised in Mississippi and in Florida. All my extended family was like really kind of country folk, Alabama. As soon as the sun come up, I'd be out in the woods or running around the neighborhood playing football or doing something and, you know, trying to not go to school as much as I possibly could. The way that schools are, you know, sort of structured are very geared towards kids that can read really well. And I couldn't read very well. They did all kind of tests. They kind of settled at that time on ADHD and dyslexia and put me on medication, which definitely helped, but it was a struggle. Like, you know, it would really work for a little while. I would get really, really good in school, but it kind of would suck the life out of me in some regard. I was always the kid that, you know, when you do a test and everybody's sitting and taking the test, you would just start to have anxiety as people would start to stand up and go turn in their test, and you realize that you're not even through half of it yet. Because you don't want to look or feel stupid, you even become more stupid in a way. Like, you just become petulant. And you're just like, well, I'm not good at this anyway, so I'm just really not even gonna try. And I think that was a bit of my mindset on it. And then after school, I really realized how much I actually like to learn. I just like to learn what I like to learn and not what people were teaching me. I didn't really have any dreams for college as far as like what I was gonna study. I just figured I'd get there, start taking classes until I kind of got lit up by something. And within the first like week of just like my classes, I knew that I wasn't gonna keep going. I was almost just having like a panic attack. I was just like, I can't do this. So for the next like year, I had all different types of jobs. Like, I was a stripper, danced at a nightclub, worked at a mortgage company. But I just couldn't quite find something there. I was like partying too much. And so I decided, I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go to like more of a metropolis. So I went down to Miami and someone saw me on the street and they were like, do you have representation? And I was like, for what? You know, I didn't feel like it was for a job the guy was asking about. He was a New Faces agent. He was kind of a shady guy, but it got my interest up. And then after that, for the next 2.5 years, I just was a model. There was an opportunity and I just like walked through the door to see what it was. And it took me all around the world. I think that traveling and getting to meet people was my real education in this world.
I mean, a really fair point that he made is that he struggled with school. He's trying to do a test and he can see everybody rushing to the front to hand theirs in and he's still going. I mean, that must have been really hard for your self-esteem and your self-confidence growing up as a child.
It must have been even worse considering that after being so disheartened, he would almost double down on it and be like, this isn't for me, this school system isn't for me, I don't want to learn this. And it wasn't until well into adulthood when he tries lots of different jobs that he's like, this is the learning I want. He was so happy he'd found this thing he could learn that he loved. And I just really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see that he was from Alabama,
Absolutely.
which is similar to Courteney Cox. It's not that New York or the Miami or Las Vegas where you expect people of that success to have been from.
Yeah, it just shows that like there's not one path to any field. You can take many different jobs to get there. It's all subjective. So there isn't just one way to do things. Maybe you see things differently, and that's what you bring to the table.
I was in New York and I got a call from my modeling agent saying, hey, you can scratch, right? Like DJing. And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, I don't know what they're wanting. Just go over to this audition. And it was a Pepsi commercial. It was like a big job. So I went over and like, as soon as I walk in, I'm like recognizing certain DJs. They're like legit. like DJs, and I'm like, I do not need to be here. And I was about to leave, and the lady's like, oh, what's your name? Are you gonna audition? And I ended up going up and just putting the record on and not doing anything other than dancing behind the tables and acting like I'm scratching. And then I was like, all right, sufficiently embarrassed myself here, I'm out. Like, gave the record back. And in like 3 weeks, I had gotten the job. Somehow, I guess the dancing of it all worked out for me. And that was my first introduction to acting. I was on the phone with my agent as soon as I got back, and I was just like, what do I do? How do I do this? He found an acting workshop for me to go to, Dina Levy's acting workshop. And I went there, and she was such a motherly, kind of just loving person. It was like a perfect introduction to what acting was. In the first 10 minutes, I think I was crying during this exercise. And I was like, this is the first thing that I get to learn that it's not learning. It's this is pure, indulgent, and fun. And I just couldn't get enough of it. And then I think, I ended up coming out to LA very shortly after that, probably about 6 months after I took my first acting workshop.
I think Channing Tatum is so cool because he spoke about the importance of seeing an opportunity and just walking through the door.
So even if it's an opportunity that you think you're not necessarily fit out for, try. He tried his best. He went, I'm just gonna go for it anyway, almost as a joke, but it worked out for him, and that was his big break into getting where he is now.
I've actually heard a saying that's say yes now and then work out how to do it later. And I feel like that's exactly what he did. So say yes to a lot of things and see what happens in the end.
Early, especially in my career, you just get no's. I mean, you kind of know this about acting now. Like, if you want to be an actor, you're going to get 99 billion no's, and you want that one yes. But still, that puts in the idea, I think, in a young actor's mind that you need to get the job. Everything was hanging on that. I would go in and I would try to just do it right. I would try to just be as right as I possibly could on the material. And there is no such thing as right, in my opinion, in acting. It's all subjective. It's just how truthful are you. There's no right way to do it. You would do a scene differently than I would do it, but that's truthful for you, and that's correct as well. There was this one audition that even my coach now, Nancy Banks, we always bring it back to this one moment. And there was an audition for No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers, two of my favorite directors of all time. And I was like, just give me an audition. I know I'm not right for the part, but I knew if I got to sit in front of them that I would be a better actor when I left the room. It was just such a different experience than going in and being like, I have to get this. And it just, something clicked. I looked at every single part, whether I thought I could get it or not. I don't need a result here. I don't need success here. The only success is going in and having that moment, the same moment that I had with Coens, of just listening. You know, you do a movie and you have a big opening weekend. People will be like, oh, you're successful. To me, that doesn't make sense. Success means that you've learned something, and you can learn something from failure almost more than like a win. And it's tough. It's easy to say. It's easy to say to let go of result. You have to have a certain amount of confidence, but if you let go of the idea of doing something right, you can learn so much by doing something wrong, and you'll get closer to what you're being asked to do.
One thing I think we can learn from Channing Tatum is his point about when you're acting, you have to get used to loads of rejection, loads of people saying, no, thank you, and still being able to say, I'm still gonna pursue this thing. And I think for me, when I was trying to look for a job straight after uni, for 3 months I was getting, unfortunately, you're not successful. No, no, no. And I still had to be like, I'm qualified, I'm able, I have talent, you know? You have to believe in yourself.
But the more you got rejected, the more you learned possibly how to better yourself and then how to get your first jobs.
Yeah.
So it was really vital to have all those 99 no's before you get that one yes.
Exactly.
So Channing Tatum wasn't just a great actor. He practiced, he learned every day. He went into rehearsals that he didn't think he would actually get at the end of the day. He wasn't just born that way.
Yeah, he did training workshops, he made an effort, and what I love about his interview for No Country for Old Men, it wasn't about whether or not he was gonna get it, it was just him knowing that on the other side of this, if I get it or I don't, I'm still gonna be a developed actor. And I think that's such a great mentality to have, because it's not like you getting the big break is what defines you, it's you knowing that I'm making an effort and I'm putting in work to be a better person at my craft.
Absolutely. Like the fact that he just wanted to be in the same room as the directors to possibly get better, to possibly get notes. He was like, I don't even think I'm gonna get this, but them being in the same room as me makes me feel successful because I'm learning a bit more. So what are our main takeaways here?
There are so many, but number one, I would say, try loads of different things until you find that one thing that sticks. Don't be afraid to explore.
And then when you do find that one thing, hone your craft. Learn more about it every day. Practice, practice, practice.
I would also say, don't aim for perfection. Let go of doing something right. Just have the effort to do something and success will come to you.
So I guess biggest takeaway from these two amazing actors was that it doesn't matter what your upbringing is. Both of them came from the rural American South and they both made it in their respective fields.
And they both struggled at school as well, but because they had that passion, they were able to use that as a driving force.
Especially also another big takeaway, both of them learned a lot in their adulthood.
And they literally used every opportunity. There wasn't a door too small that they didn't want to go through.
I think it's safe to say that these actors have shown that there are many different paths to find success. It's about your character and finding ways to be the best you can be.
Yeah, and if you keep trying and you find what really matters to you and you work really hard, then success is literally right around the corner.